It had been about 6 months since the Great Manure Uprising, or as the local kids called it, the day the golf died. The grass on the abandoned course was now knee-high, home to a very aggressive family of raccoons, and the cows no longer twitched at the sound of golf balls bouncing off their backsides. Life on the farm was back to normal, peaceful, predictable, pungent. And then, she came. I was out mending a fence when I saw the SUV roll up. White, shiny, probably smelled like essential oils and passive aggression. A woman stepped out, wearing a visor, tennis shoes that had never seen a tennis court, and a frown so tight it could crush hope. She had that look, the kind of look that meant she was either about to critique a lawn or declare war on someone's mailbox. She took out a clipboard. Of course, I muttered. They always have a damn clipboard. She strolled over to the abandoned golf course next to my property, the infamous battlefield of the catapult incident. And she just stood there, looking around like a vulture shopping for real estate. Then she sniffed the air. Yes, sniffed. I couldn't help myself. I walked over to the fence and gave her my best farmer smile. Lovely day, ain't it? She turned slowly, looked at me like I'd just offered her a fried cockroach sandwich. Her mouth twitched. She nodded, technically, then turned back toward the field. Oh no, I thought. Not again. They're multiplying. It took everything in me not to ask if there was a Karen breeding program, or maybe a finishing school for the severely entitled. But I bit my tongue and walked back to the barn, where Clarabelle was watching like she already sensed incoming drama. She's sniffing the grass, I told her. That's never a good sign. Clarabelle mooed in agreement. She knew. 3 days later, the circus arrived. Luxury cars, shiny shoes, Rolexes, and unearned confidence. A swarm of important people and business casuals stood around the field, nodding seriously, pointing at the sky like they were discovering it for the first time. My cows watched in baffled silence. One of them looked at me with a "what the hell is this?" expression. New neighbors, girls, I said, leaning on the fence. Maybe they'll be smarter than the last ones. Spoiler, they weren't. Turns out, they weren't building another golf course. Oh no, that would have been too easy. They were building an aero club for small aircraft joyrides. Because what says responsible development, like buzzing over livestock with poorly piloted tin cans full of billionaires and birthday boys. I'll admit, at first, I was almost impressed. The thing went up fast. Money tends to do that. In 2 weeks, the old golf course was transformed into a mini airstrip, complete with hangars, windsocks, and a shack labeled VIP Lounge that looked suspiciously like a repurposed porta-potty. And then, the flight started. The first few were loud, but tolerable, until they started flying low. Really low. Like, hey, I can see the pilot's nose hair low. And the cows? Yeah, they hated it. I'd never seen Bessie run before. Turns out, she's faster than she looks. Especially when a Cessna buzzes her at 30 feet. But the noise wasn't even the worst part. It started with plastic wrappers, then coffee cups, then a champagne bottle. They were throwing trash out of the planes. Right onto my fields. Onto my cows. Onto me. I tried to be reasonable. Really, I did. I approached the new Karen, president of HOA 2.0, and explained the issue. She stared at me like I was background noise, blinked slowly, then gave a shrug that said, "I'd rather be anywhere else." "It's not a big deal," she said. "They're just little planes. And it's just a little trash." I stared at her for a long moment. "You're lucky I'm trying to be the bigger person," I said. "Oh, I doubt that," she replied and walked off. That was the moment I knew. They'd made a mistake. A few days later, I was sitting on my porch, watching another plane zoom over the barn. A Starbucks cup fluttered down like a passive-aggressive meteor. It landed nearby my boot. Clarabelle walked up beside me. She didn't even look at me. She just sighed. I looked over at the barn, at the tarp, at what lay beneath. My old friend. The catapult. Time to speak their language, I whispered. She mooed. The next morning, I woke up before dawn with a sense of purpose that only revenge and basic caffeine dependency can give you. The old catapult stood like an ancient war machine beneath the tarp beside the barn. I hadn't touched it in months, but I'd kept it oiled and ready, just in case someone decided to test fate again. And fate, apparently, now flew a plane. But this time, I needed more than range. I needed altitude. The original build was meant for distance. Good old parabolic trajectories to flatten smug golfers from afar. But now I had to hit something 300 feet in the air, traveling at the speed of suburban ego. So, I got to work. I modified the launch angle, reinforced the support beams, dug into my creative ammunition, reserves, and even added a pulley system to adjust trajectory mid-launch. By noon, the beast was reborn, not just a catapult. It was now an anti-air manure defense system. Clarabelle and the rest of the herd watched from a respectful distance, heads tilted like they were observing history in the making. Don't worry, I told them. I'm aiming for the plains, not your reputation. By 2 p.m., the airfield was buzzing. Literally, they were running non-stop joyrides. A line of SUVs stretched from the VIP shack all the way back to the main road. Men in pastel shorts were sipping cocktails and waiting their turn to pretend they knew what altimeter meant. I rolled the catapult into position just behind the barn. Out of sight. Always out of sight. Then I wheeled over my old ham radio, tuned to the same frequency the pilots used to talk to each other and their ground crew. Took me a while to crack it last time, but thanks to YouTube and sheer spite, I was now fully tapped in. I loaded the first package. It was substantial, organic, fresh, waited for maximum splatter. The first plane took off like a lawnmower with wings. Low, slow, and begging for humility. I tracked it visually, waited for the perfect moment. 3, 2, 1. Thwomp. The payload launched upward in a beautiful arc, catching the sun like a meteor made of Midwestern vengeance. A second later, BM, direct hit on the underside of the fuselage. Even from the ground, I could hear the slap. What the hell? Crackled a voice through the radio. I've been hit. Something slammed the undercarriage. I'm turning around. Unpredictable conditions, returning to base. I grinned. Still got it. Clarabelle mooed in approval. The second plane wasn't far behind. I reloaded and waited as it passed overhead, shiny wing catching the light like a smug high five. Thwomp. This one clipped the wing, not hard enough to damage, but just enough to send the pilot into a beautiful little panic spiral. Dispatch. I've been hit in the wing. Possible bird strike. I don't know. It smells horrible. Returning to base. Immediate landing. Bird strike, I said aloud. Yeah, that bird ate nothing but beans and vengeance. The third one was my masterpiece. A sleek little plane, barely 20 feet up, and just starting to accelerate. I adjusted the catapult angle with precision. Locked on. Fired. The payload hit the front of the aircraft, right above the propeller. And that's when it happened. The propeller did what propellers do. It spread the message. The manure splashed across the windshield, along the fuselage, and right into the open side window, where some poor trust fund intern was sitting with a mimosa and a phone full of selfies. The pilot screamed, "Oh God, I'm hit. I'm hit. What is this? Is this lawn clippings?" Pause. No, it's not lawn clippings. A moment of silence. Then, I can't see anything. My hands are covered. The windshield wipers aren't working. I think the client is unconscious. Another pause. Nope. He's awake. Just covered in. Oh my God. Back at the airfield, all hell broke loose. Staff ran around waving their arms. One guy tripped over a decorative boulder. A woman spilled an entire bottle of white wine on her little dog. The whole operation looked like someone set off a stink bomb in the middle of a stock photo shoot. I stood back, arms folded, watching the chaos unfold like a live-action comedy. Then I packed up the catapult, wheeled it back to the barn, and covered it with the tarp like it was just another pile of old tractor parts. By the time I got back to the porch, I could see the new Karen's SUV screaming down the road toward me. Perfect. She slammed the brakes, practically launched herself out of the car, and stormed up to the fence like an angry weather system in yoga pants. "You," she screeched. "What did you do?" I sipped my coffee. "Oh, I just sat here. Watched the skies. Peacefully. Like a law-abiding landowner." She flailed. "People are threatening to sue me. Planes are covered in that. One of them said he'll need therapy. Another said his shoes are ruined." "Should have flown higher," I said. "Or better yet, Somewhere else. She growled. Literally growled. You can't just attack aircraft. I didn't, I said. They flew over my land. Very low. Very illegally. I simply provided environmental feedback. Karen huffed, puffed, and made a noise like a Keurig having a breakdown. Then she turned, stormed back to her SUV, and peeled out like a teenager in a parking lot. Clarabelle wandered over again. I handed her an apple. Well played, I said. She chewed. Let's see what the sheriff has to say this time. The sheriff showed up that evening, just as the sun was sinking behind the silo and the last traces of airborne stink had drifted off to traumatize the treetops. Same cruiser. Same slow walk. Same face that said, I already know what happened, but I have to pretend I'm investigating anyway. He took off his hat and gave me a look. So, he started. Anything you want to tell me about the sudden rain of, well, organic matter hitting planes over the old golf course? I took a slow sip of coffee. I noticed some of the planes were flying unusually low today, I said. Very unsafe. Someone really should report that to the FAA. He blinked. I blinked back. Clarabelle, perfectly on cue, let out the most innocent moo I've ever heard in my life. He sighed. You didn't happen to encourage any low-flying aircraft to reconsider their trajectory, did you? I just maintain my property, Sheriff. Always have. Another long pause. You do realize you're the only person in the Tri-County area with a functioning catapult and a garage. That's a very specific accusation, I said. And technically true, he added, scratching the back of his neck. Look, officially, I have to respond because Karen 2.0 called in 3 different reports. She's claiming aerial sabotage and manure-based terrorism. Big words for someone who ignored airspace laws, I said, casually tossing a golf ball I found earlier, leftover relic from HOA Season 1. She also mentioned a radio being used to monitor air traffic. Oh, I smiled. So now listening is a crime? He gave me a sideways look. You didn't interfere with the radio signals, right? Sheriff, I swear to you, I only eavesdrop. Never interrupt. He chuckled under his breath, then turned serious again. The thing is, he said, I checked. That aero club? They didn't file the proper flight path permissions. Didn't even clear things with the local zoning board. Turns out, you're absolutely right. Flying that low over private farmland without consent? Illegal as hell. Well, I'll be, I said, feigning shock. Imagine that. And, he added, I talked to the county environmental rep. Between the noise, the trash, and, believe it or not, reports of chemical spills from their maintenance shack. This whole airfield setup? Probably going to get shut down. Fast. I raised my mug. To the rule of law. He nodded. Still, maybe ease up on the Sky artillery? Sheriff, I said, placing a hand over my heart. I only launch when launched upon. He rolled his eyes, tipped his hat, and turned to go. One of these days, you're going to write a book. You know that, right? Already working on the title. Farming, Flying Crap, and the HOA Apocalypse. He snorted, got in his cruiser, and drove off into the evening. Within days, the Aero Club fell apart faster than a piñata in a biker bar. The FAA showed up. Then county zoning. Then an environmental safety team that took one whiff near the maintenance shed and nearly passed out. Turns out, building a mini airport on a golf course next to a working farm, without permits, noise assessments, or basic common sense, not the best idea. Karen 2.0 tried to save it. She made a public Facebook post. All caps, multiple exclamation points, full meltdown mode. This is a personal attack on my community. The farmer is targeting US with hostile manure. I demand justice. She disabled comments 3 hours later. A few of the pilots tried to lawyer up, but their claims didn't stick. The legal language from my side was simple: private airspace violation, unauthorized low-altitude flyovers, property endangerment, and littering from aircraft. One guy tried to argue he was engaging in ecotourism. I sent the court a photo of my cow with a Starbucks lid stuck to her tail. The judge was not impressed. And so, one by one, the flight stopped. Refunds were issued. Karen 2.0 vanished off social media. Her luxury SUV was last seen with a for sale sign in the window. And me? Well, let's just say things got viral. Someone leaked the air traffic recordings. Don't ask me how. Let's just say my ham radio may or may not have had a USB recorder plugged in. Clips of panicked pilots yelling, "It's everywhere," and "My hands are covered in it," got spliced into TikToks, YouTube remixes, and even one surprisingly good EDM track. Memes exploded. A catapult drawn like a missile launcher, with Clarabelle wearing aviators. A mock movie poster, Top Gun, Manure Maverick. A parody ad, "Visit our aero club, just don't fly low or slow." Journalists came again. One asked if I coordinated the whole thing with military precision. Nah, I said. Just a farmer with a bit of free time and a lot of cow crap. They laughed. I didn't. Because I wasn't joking. Now the airfield is deserted. The only thing flying over my property these days is the occasional bird, and I let them pass, for now. The cows? They're calm. Happy. One even gave birth a week later. We named the calf Wingnut. As for the catapult, still there. Still covered. Still ready. Just in case HOA Season 3 tries to go intercontinental. The week after the Aero Club collapsed, something strange happened. Silence. Not the peaceful countryside kind of silence I used to love. This was a new breed. The kind of quiet that creeps in after something insane happens and everyone's trying to pretend it didn't. A whole community acting like nobody just launched cow crap at $300,000 aircraft mid-flight. People got real polite with me at the gas station. "Nice day, huh?" "Sure is." "You, flying anything today?" Clarabelle became a minor celebrity. A family from out of town drove 4 hours just to get a photo of their toddler sitting near her. She posed. I swear, that cow has a PR instinct. And me? I went back to business as usual. Fences. Feed. Trying to keep Bessie from breaking into the grain shed again. Until I saw the van. News van. Again. This one wasn't local. The logo said something like "Real America 24/7. I could already smell the blend of clickbait and artificial enthusiasm. A woman with 2 white teeth and a cameraman shaped like a refrigerator stepped out and made a beeline for the porch. I didn't even try to stop them. "Hi there," she said. "We're doing a piece on unique rural justice stories, and well, you've sort of become a legend." "Is that so?" I said. "We'd love to do a quick interview. Just a few questions about how a farmer with a catapult managed to shut down an illegal luxury airstrip." I sighed. "You want the wholesome version, the honest version, or the one with explosions?" She smiled. "All of the above." So I told them. More or less. I left out the part where I tuned into the radio chatter for comedic timing. I might have downplayed the engineering upgrades. But the rest? All true. They ate it up. Especially when Clarabelle wandered into the background mid-interview and mooed directly into the microphone. Instant meme. The story went national. Then international. Some British news outlet referred to me as the manure marksman of the Midwest. German Twitter called me Dunger Verteidiger, the fertilizer defender. There was merch again. Someone made a limited edition action figure of Catapult Farmer. It came with a little plastic cow and a spring-loaded poop flinger. Sold out in a day. Meanwhile, HOA HQ was in shambles. Karen 2.0 resigned due to the hostile farming climate. I'm not even sure what that means, but the Facebook post announcing her departure had more laughing emojis than words. A replacement was announced. Greg. Greg lasted 2 weeks. He stepped down after an unfortunate incident involving a drone, a hay bale, and a very territorial rooster. Not my doing. I promise. One night, I sat on the porch again. Same chair. Same mug. The stars were out, quiet and beautiful. Clarabelle was dozing nearby, chewing sleepily. I looked out over the field, where the ghost of a golf course had once stood, then where an airfield had briefly buzzed like a mosquito in a Gucci scarf. Gone. Nature was reclaiming everything. Grass growing wild. Trees creeping in. Cows, blissfully unaware of zoning permits and HOA drama, grazing like nothing ever happened. And me? I wasn't just a farmer anymore. Apparently, I was folklore. A kid showed up a few days later. Maybe 16. Shy. Cowboy boots too clean. "Are you the catapult guy?" "Depends who's asking." He grinned. "I want to learn." "Learn what?" "How to stand up for your land." Damn. Didn't think that'd hit so hard. I showed him how to fix a fence instead. You start small. Always. Now there's talk in town. Some folks say I should run for local council. Others want me to host a seminar. I'm not interested in politics. But if you ever need someone to give a TED Talk titled, How to Weaponize Fertilizer Responsibly, I might be available. I'm just a guy with cows, some wood, and a healthy disrespect for rich people who think rural means empty. Let him try again. HOA, airstrip, corporate retreat, drone golf, whatever. I'm not going anywhere. And the catapult? Let's just say she's been upgraded. A few months after everything settled, I got a letter in the mail. Not the usual kind. This one came in a fancy envelope with gold foil and a little wax seal. The kind of thing you'd expect from royalty or a cult. Turns out, it was an invitation. Dear Mr. Catapult Farmer, we assume this is how you prefer to be addressed. We cordially invite you to speak at the National Conference on Property Rights, Civil Liberties, and Creative Problem Solving. Underneath was a handwritten note. Your story is already legend. Might as well make it official. I snorted. Creative problem solving. That's what we're calling it now? I didn't go, of course. But I did hang the invitation in the barn. Right next to a signed photo of Clarabelle, hoof-stamped, obviously, and a newspaper clipping with the headline. Farmer turns air club into no-fly zone using cow-powered precision weapon. That one's my favorite. Not just for the headline, but for the photo they used. It's a blurry action shot of me, mid-launch, wearing overalls and a hat, looking like I'm leading a one-man revolution against the skies. And in the background, a perfectly timed image of a tiny aircraft with what appears to be a brown splatter trailing behind it. Art. Life returned to normal again. Or, well, as normal as things get when you're the unofficial mascot of rural retaliation. Cows, coffee, catapult maintenance, and the occasional tour group asking if this is where the manure magic happened. I charge $5 for a selfie with the tarp. They pay it. Clarabelle, of course, is still queen of the field. She got a custom collar recently. Leather, with a little brass tag that says, Air Defense Division, founding member. The other cows don't seem jealous. Mostly just relieved that things are quiet again. But we know better. It's only a matter of time before the next HOA, influencer commune, or tech startup meets sunset retreat rolls into town thinking, oh, how quaint. Just a little farm. And when they do, we'll be ready. In fact, I've started sketching a new design. Something more mobile. With wheels. And a rangefinder. Because as much as I'd like to believe people have learned their lesson, I've lived long enough to know that stupidity, like golf balls and low-flying Cessnas, has a way of finding you. Until then, I'll be right here. Fixing fences, feeding cows, watching the skies, and keeping my finger very gently on the trigger. Because if you fly too low over my land, you don't just get turbulence. You get Clarabelle. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.